Triple changers are always a challenge to do. A lot of times there's one mode that gets compromised in either a minute way or a massive way, and there really hasn't been a triple changer out there I would consider perfect. With that in mind, I was not expecting perfection on Legacy Blitzwing and fully expected a mode to be compromised. But what is that? Okay, before I get too carried away with the jet mode criticisms, let's take a quick look at some of the Blitzwings that we've gotten in the past, starting all the way back with the original, G1. G1 Blitzwing is one of my favorite G1 toys I own. I constantly pick him up to mess with him. He is small, but packed with diecast. He feels so heavy in the hand. He doesn't really do much in robot mode, and he desperately needs new stickers, but he still holds a special place to me because he was the G1 triple changer I've wanted for years and years, so I'm glad to have him now. He holds his accessories sideways, which is funny, and he had 2 missiles. Obviously, I have none of those because I got this used like most of my G1 toys. I don't have animated Blitzwing, so I'll reserve any opinions till I actually get him. But next up, we have the Thrilling 30 mold. For some reason, Blitzwing was absent from Classics in Universe. We only got Octane and Astro Train, but then we got Thrilling 30. This isn't the Blitzwing deco, but there's no changes apart from the head tooling. So this mold has problems. I made a video on this already. You can check that out if you want to get my full thoughts on this mold, but let's just say it had promise but fell short in a lot of areas. It needs a lot more tabs and has so many gaps that it was never really fun. It does look cool though. But on to the next one. The Blitzwing mold that's being compared to the Legacy one the most, Titan's Return. This is the Takara Legends Megatron version, but again, there's no massive changes between this and Blitzwing. It was pretty good for the time, but I feel it's aged quite a bit. The articulation is definitely not up to today's standards. The proportions are very off, and the loose joint issues were consistent with a lot of people's copies, not to mention the stickers on the Titan's Return ones were just god-awful. Then Blitzwing got a Studio Series toy from the Bumblebee movie segment of that toy line, but that's something completely different. And this is where I'm going to start bringing the Legacy and Titan's Return one in to do some comparisons. I personally think the Legacy one looks more proportional. It's less like he skipped leg day. Don't get me wrong, I like the Titan's Return mold a lot, otherwise I wouldn't have bought this. But to me, the Legacy one is just a lot better. I still have issues with it. I really wanted to love it, but I just don't. But I still like it a lot. The paintwork and color distribution is well done, and the silver really pops on that purple. I like how deep the purple is. It's not too deep like the Takara Legends Megatron. That just kind of borders on slightly purpley blue. It's a nice pleasing purple. The tan I find works nicer with this purple than the Titan's Return one did. I don't have that one anymore. I gave it to a friend, so I can't compare it. Sorry. The panels on the arms don't lock in at all, and that's really annoying. It's just more floaty engineering I've encountered, and it bothers me because it's in a place you would normally grab to like pose the arms, and it just moves all the time. I also find it a tad bit jarring that the head sits a bit in front of the shoulders. It's not horrible, but it is noticeable to me, and it looks weird. I've always found that the promotional images for this guy they look weird because his head just sits a little too far forward. His shoulder pads don't rotate with the shoulders, they just do the laser prime thing. But they are on a second set of hinges for the transformation, so you have all this extra motion you can do with them to get around the shoulder pad not rotating. I'll show you that a little bit more in the articulation segment and get into greater detail. However, that doesn't mean Hasbro should continue doing this. Please stop. It's a limiting design trend. I don't like it. Size-wise, being a leader, I think people need to understand nowadays that the class system isn't about size anymore. It's about engineering, parts count, deco, etc. So I'm not bummed out at all that this guy is a leader, but he is looking like a short Voyager. The amount of stuff packed into this figure and the stuff that it comes with make up the price, but is the stuff that it comes with worth it? The sword and guns are good. I like them a lot. The sword is a soft plastic, and I saw people complain about that, but you have to understand this is a children's toy. So it has to conform to safety standards, so that doesn't bother me in the slightest. Plus it means it won't snap, and it means it won't be sharp as shit, and I won't be able to poke my eye out. The guns are neat too, and they're blast effect compatible, so that's nice. Kind of wish the tank barrel was, but oh well. The gloves though, I don't get their inclusion. On the one hand, it's like, oh crap, a new accessory. That's really awesome. New stuff is always nice, and it's always a breath of fresh air. But on the other hand, I'm like, why these? They don't peg in super well in the hands because the pegs have to be short so you don't snap them for the tank mode configuration. But they just feel a bit out of place. However, once you get them mounted, I will say it does look kind of epic. It's a shame that you can't really get them onto Minosaur, because having like alternate hands for him would have been cool, and having these become alternate hands to make it look more like Energon Bruticus or something, That would have been nice, but they did not do that for some reason. I find that such a missed opportunity. Also, you can give him just one and make him look like Hellboy, which I think is funny. Absolutely love the way he looks with Astro Train. I really, really, really want to see what they can do with an Octane in this style, and a Broadside, and a Sandstorm. I would love some updated versions of that. The last time we saw triple changing Sandstorm was Thrilling 30. Articulation I'm going to walk you through because there's some really neat details that it decides to include, so I'll show you. Okay, so Blitzwing's articulation is actually, well, I mean, it's pretty standard, but there's some little neat tweaks and quirks that it does that's just interesting. Also, if you hear rumbling or whatever, someone downstairs is listening to the music on the speaker system very loudly, and it's rattling Fort Max, who's back there. So yeah, just apologies. So Blitzwing here has a double jointed neck, actually. It's on 2 segments, so you can do the whole, like, he can bop to the music downstairs. But it allows you to get him to look up a lot further than you would be able to normally on the ball joint, so you can get a little bit more movement. Doesn't really help with down that much. Kind of wish you could look down a little bit more, but no, well. Now the shoulders, as I mentioned before, they are completely, there goes the arm panel. They are completely static, right? They don't rotate with the arm. You can fold this panel up and get the arm out about that far forward, which is not bad. But I like to untab them a little bit, and that gets you an even further range out. And then you can also use it to sort of finagle it out like this, so you can actually get the arm fully up. So there are still ways to get the arm to go fully up. It's just not as simple as, say, you, right? Which is ideal. Not horrible, but not ideal. Bicep rotation, although mine does seem to like to come off. Like if I just give it a little bit of a push. No, it's this one. If I give it a little bit of a push, it just starts to come off. So I do need to thicken that up just a little bit, but I've only seen that on my copy, so it's fine. Elbow bends, a little bit over 90 degrees. These panels, oh my God. These panels really needed a tab and slot, like right there, to peg in, because they just move so much. But here's one of the quirks of the posability that I wanted to mention. So the wrist right here has a wrist swivel, right? And it folds around into the arm for transformation. But because it does that, if you want to use that joint at all, they sculpted in a little bit of stuff. They sculpted in that to make it look a little more natural. Because on the back of it is like it's a tab, right? And they've made the tab both useful in robot and in alt mode, because in alt mode it tabs the vehicle together, but in robot mode they've sculpted the back of the tab to give it a little bit of round detail so that it doesn't look stupid when you do this. I like that a lot. I think that's really, really neat. And then, you know, wrist swivel. Focus on the toy, you stupid idiot. There we go. He does have a waist joint, so, you know, no problems with that there. Hip skirts do move forward, so you can get forward. He can go back only a little bit, but oh well. Hips can go out. You do have a thigh swivel. However, when you move the legs forward, thigh swivel kind of gets a little limited. So that's just the way it's sculpted. And he's not the only figure that does that. There's a lot of figures out there with hip skirts that do that. So, eh. Now, another cool thing they sculpted in here that they didn't have to is in the knee. They actually sculpted all this stuff in. Let me zoom in, actually. Right there. Which is really cool. I really like that a lot, because if you look at it next to, say, Astro Train, who just sort of bends and doesn't really have anything there, it's a lot nicer on Blitzwing, the way they decided to accomplish that. They put that little bit of extra effort in there, and I like it. Kind of wish that extra effort went into these, but oh well. What were we on? We're on the knee. We just did the knee. Now he has ankle tilts. They look hideous. Kind of wish they had taken the same design philosophy that they use for the knees and the hands to put into the feet, to like maybe round it off a little bit. Because there are toys that have done that. Trying to see if I have one on the shelf right now, but I don't. Oh, I do. Here we go. Here's a good example of that. Kingdom Pipes. It's not a lot, but they did sculpt a little bit in to give you a little bit more of a natural looking foot when it's tilted, ever so slightly. Kind of wish they did that on this. Ah, Kingdom Pipes doesn't want to stand. There we go. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it is still there. Now, he doesn't have forward or back at the ankles. Please do that more often. It's useful. However, if you want to fake it, you can fold the heel spur down a little bit to make it look like he's using his foot as like a toe or something. So you can fake that, and if you want to, you can unfold this and fold the toe down here if you ever need to. Or you can fold these in all together if you don't like the way that that looks. So
That's nice. I prefer them forward. I think they look neat. But yeah, this articulation is actually quite good. Shoulders may seem a little bit limited at first, but you can get around that, so that's nice. Beetle.
Of the 3 more modern Blitzwings, omitting G1 because that's an unfair comparison to G1, I'd say the Legacy one I like the most. It's more proportional, more stable, more fun to pose than the other 2. We will start with tank mode because I want to save the jet mode for later. Transforming, it's really intriguing the way everything moves. It's in panels and chunks, like panels that go around chunks. It makes the transformation have a lot more variety to it, and it's never boring. But those arm panels are really annoying. Tank mode has a schlong, and I'll just talk about that first. It's cartoon accurate to a point. I think it's fine, but it could have stuck out a little bit less. From the side, it looks fine, but from the top, it's a lot of hollow, and you can see the head in there, and it just feels a little unfinished. The rest of the tank, though, looks amazing. The turret can rotate and look up and down. You have lots of nice sculpted detail. The paintwork, while minimal on the tank, still looks quite nice. Comparing it to the rest of the tanks we've gotten, and this is definitely my favorite, the Titan's Return one is limited in its tank articulation, and I find it's too narrow. The Thrilling 30 one is, well, Thrilling 30, and the G1 tank is G1, so again, that's a very unfair comparison. I love me a good tank mode, though, and even with the schlong, I still think this is great. You can get upgrade parts to hide it if you really want to get rid of the nose cone on the front, so there is that. You can store all the crap he comes with on the tank, and the weird hands become missile pods, but that looks more like a Hellfire droid than anything. Not a fan of how that looks, but it looks fine, I guess. Okay, on to jet mode. Alright, this transformation is neat, how it moves all of the mass around, but that mass really doesn't end up anywhere interesting. Blitzwing has always had a chunky jet mode. No official Blitzwing I've seen that triple changes has had a clean jet, whether it be underneath or on top. But this is just real bad. That's just a tank hanging out under there, not a turret. It's the whole tank. I can't defend that. All that great leader engineering couldn't help this, and it sucks. I wish the money that went into making the hand things went towards cleaning this up a bit, because it's just not great. Hell, I'll take the Thrilling 30 jet mode over the Legacy one. I feel like if the jet mode was a bit longer, then proportionally it would look a bit better, but here, nah man, it just, no. Weapons can still store, but that doesn't make it any better. It looks even worse now. You can use the kibble as a flight stand, but mine is way too loose and he just falls over, so, you know, pain. I'm just gonna go back to robot mode to close this off. Ah, that's better. He's still my favorite of the Blitzwings I have. He proportionally looks better, his engineering is more fun, his accessories are cool and wacky, and the finer details are great. Tank mode is also pretty good, schlong is there, but the rest of the tank just works quite well. Jet mode is the weakest part for sure, it just suffers a lot. I still recommend it, but I enjoy Astro Train as a triple changing Voyager leader sized toy more. He feels more worth his price than Blitzwing. I'm still fine with paying full price for Blitzwing, but I feel a lot better spending that full on Astro Train. You know what I mean? Like, I have less buyer's remorse initially with Astro Train than I do with Blitzwing. It's still good. It just has one mode that doesn't hit. I would still recommend getting this for anybody. But that's my look at Transformers Legacy Leader Class Blitzwing. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.